Well, good evening and welcome to the Majority Show. My name is Mark Devlin and this is Scotland's #1 politics chat. That's for all you who are chatting with us tonight. Thank you for coming in. We go out live every Wednesday on Twitter, now called X, Facebook and YouTube. And I'm here tonight with co-hosts Mary Devlin and David Griffiths. How are you tonight, David?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Hi everyone, good to be back.
What are you going to be talking about?
Tonight I will be assessing the legacy following the departure of Jason Leitch as Scotland's National Clinical Director.
Okay, very good. And Mary, what are you going to be talking about tonight?
Well, tonight I'm going to be talking about my recent experiences with the NHS and the care system and how we're in desperate need of competent leadership to fix them.
Oh, okay, very good. And we'll be talking about Humza, Hamas and hate crimes. And, of course, we will also have Zoomer of the Week. So we'll be back with all that and much more in just a moment. Right, welcome back to the Majority Show, Scotland's #1 politics chat. And our aim is a thriving Scotland without the toxic nationalism that is strangling Scotland's potential. Here tonight with David and Mary, and we're glad you can join us because it's going to be a really good show tonight. And we'll probably run a little bit long, just going to warn you that.
Someone's saying your sound isn't great, Mark.
It wasn't, it's better now, it's fine now.
Okay, because I messed with my microphone. Okay, is that better?
Yes,
Yep.
very much.
Okay, all right. As always, a huge thanks to our friends at UK Union Voice and United Against Separation Facebook pages, where many of you are watching from tonight.
Oh, that's me. I know it's me. Hang on one sec. And remember, sharing is caring. The #1 thing you can do is to like the show on YouTube. Even if you don't subscribe, give us a like. And if you can subscribe, please do so, which, as I always say, it increases the reach of the show at the click of one button.
Right, very good. We all need to get the word out that we are all the majority. That's us, you watching us, and of course the majority of Scots who voted against the Nationalists in the 2014 referendum and since then as well. And what better way to do that than with a majority T-shirt or mug? Have a look at this one. Actually, this is not majority T-shirt. This is like the one I'm wearing right now. Oops, so I'm going to try and do it there. No, I can't move my mouse to the right spot. All right, okay, there we go. That's the Abolish Holyrood T-shirt. Get one and annoy all the nationalists around you while enlightening and making your friends happy as Larry, whoever Larry is. Anyway, right, so...
Okay, as usual, I'll be managing the relentless flood of comments, so please keep them short and snappy, and I'll try to put up as many on the screen as I can. Thank you.
Right, we've got a lot to go through tonight. Mary's got a special section in the NHS, which I hope you will stay to listen to. It's been really good. And of course, we've got all the other stuff that's going on. So let's get started. When is a bribe not a bribe? This week, it emerged that Humza Yousaf overruled officials in order to give £250,000 in Gaza aid to UNRWA. It's not that easy to say that. UNRWA. United Nations Relief and Works Agency. Government officials had recommended a £100,000 to £200,000 donation to UNICEF, the United Nations agency, that's the one for the children, and that's to help support water programs in Gaza. Now, if you remember, and you should remember because it was on our TV for weeks, Humza Yousaf's mother-in-law was trapped in Gaza after the war started, and she was on our screens every day complaining, as he was, about being stuck in a war zone. Humza also on the TV every day calling for a ceasefire. But what with this donation, the somewhat mysterious coincidence was that in the same day that the day after the donation was made, and that was also the day after Humza met with UNRWA officials, which was November 2 last year, his mother-in-law and father-in-law left Gaza the next day. That's quite a stunning coincidence, David. What do you think of that?
Serendipity there.
Well, indeed, it's just Wow, aren't these coincidences quite incredible? Who would have thought that could happen in such close proximity, those two events? But I mean, I do remember very clearly the First Minister being very choked and almost too choked to speak, with a very halting delivery when he told the world how desperately worried he was about whether his in-laws would live through the night. And it struck me then that his delivery was very much like we saw from Nicola Sturgeon when she appeared at the COVID inquiry, saying that she just wanted to be the best First Minister.
Oh, yes.
All that nonsense. I just wonder, isn't it funny that they both speak exactly in the same way when they're trying to come across as all compassionate and worried? Anyway,
they maybe have the same coach.
Well, exactly right. Indeed. But let's not forget, just to contextualise what happened there, Humza's in-laws travelled to Gaza against foreign and Commonwealth advice. They shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Right.
And, so really, if anything bad happens there, that's awful. But you can't really expect the UK government to bail you out, which is clearly what Humza was saying. But no, instead of that, he found some money, which he pointed out was unbudgeted. And he came up with this great line: "We will have to bear this cost going forward." Oh, really? Okay, great. Okay.
Well, who's we? Yes, exactly.
Right. So it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's playing fast and loose with the taxpayers' money to bail out your own in-laws. I mean, really, allegedly. If I mean, that's as I'll mention later. They certainly give that impression, rightly or wrongly, but that's kind of how it looked.
Yeah, I think that's definitely how it looks. I mean, it's a stunning coincidence. Stephen Kerr noticed this stunning coincidence for the MSP, and he said, Humza Yousaf has a clear conflict of interest in awarding aid to Gaza. Clearly, the fact that so many members of his family are either living in Gaza or are involved with Palestinian organizations raises significant questions about what his motivation is for using taxpayers' money in that area, which seems to be a very reasonable statement. But Humza didn't like that at all, and he responded saying that Kerr's comments were Islamophobia, outrageous smears, and he was pursuing a far-right conspiracy. In part, Humza Yousaf said, most of my political life, I can't do the earnest whisper, most of my political life, I've battled insinuations from sections of the media desperate to link me to terrorism, despite campaigning my whole life against it. But where is this campaigning he's done against terrorism? I've never heard of it.
Indeed.
I don't think you have, David, or Mary either, and probably most of our viewers haven't heard of it either. In fact, what we're seeing is that he's been supporting Hamas, a terrorist organization, and their objectives through a ceasefire, which basically would embolden Hamas and weaken Israel, and also the continuous use of Hamas's faked casualty numbers to try and get that ceasefire as well. Anyway, he continues, the latest smear from the Telegraph is just a continuation of these Islamophobic attacks. And this begs a question, I suppose, which is it Islamophobic to complain about possible links to Islamic terror? Is the best form of defence and attack, David?
Without doubt, you can see what you're seeing here from Humza is very much like we saw from Sturgeon at the time that the GRR bill collapsed, and that is mock fury. That's what it is. It's not genuine, how dare you? It's not like that at all. It's not, this is just Islamophobia. Like she said at the time, these are just people who are actually misogynist, racist, and probably homophobic. Yeah, okay, guys, just toss around as many insults as you like. That's not what you do if you're genuinely innocent. You actually come across as truly aggrieved and outraged. You don't just come across as throwing punches. It's ridiculous. So again, coaching, probably. But as I asked yesterday on Twitter, I wonder what made Humza Yousaf choose this charity of all the charities in the world, particularly given its employees' subsequent alleged participation, actually taking part in the 7 October Hamas atrocities. Of all the charities to pick, how unlucky is that? And also the question I raised was, how many Israeli charities has Humza Yousaf sanctioned funding from the Scottish Government since he took over as First Minister? And also we heard from Mary McCallum that all of these world leaders keep asking the Scottish Government to comment and give advice on the numerous initiatives in which Scotland apparently leads the world. What advice have they given Israel to maybe stop terrorism, which Humza Yousaf detests and he's spent his whole life opposing? I must have missed that also. So I'm just wondering, is there a reason why Israel wouldn't be considered a worthy recipient of any either advice or aid from the Scottish Government, but Gaza would be, Pakistan would be, and Turkey would be, which are also recipients of Humza Yousaf's large S? Is that a reason, I wonder? Oh, hang on, guys, am I being Islamophobic here?
Definitely.
What my life, honestly.
Yeah, well, this is a quite an issue. I mean, okay, so let's talk a little bit more about this UNRWA as well, right? Because they are really a problem. Yeah, the agency established in 1949 to support the welfare of Arab refugees who left or fled their homes during Israel's War of Independence. Well, of course, what actually happened was they left thinking that the Arab nations would come in, destroy Israel, and they would get their homes back. That didn't turn out so well for them. So they've been basically permanent refugees since 1949. And they still got this status, even it's a kind of weird thing. The descendants of the original refugees are still counted as refugees by the UN and funded as such. But
how many generations are we at now?
I don't know, 4 probably.
4 or 5, yeah.
I would think anyway. But ostensibly, as an aid organisation, recent weeks it's been shown that UNRWA has not only ties to Hamas, but a growing number of them were actually participated in the October 7th attacks. The Times of Israel, I have this article here, reported that 12 UNRWA staffers were part of the attacks, and 30 more assisted. And there's widespread support for Hamas inside the organisation, of course, as well. And it's been shown that the UNRWA has didn't seem to notice these tunnels being built underneath their headquarters. And didn't seem to notice the 300 miles or 500 miles of other tunnels as well.
Apparently they have, like, I think in the same article it talks about they have like 1,500 buildings or something.
Okay,
so they're spending an awful lot of money on buildings.
Well, that's a lot of aid money. So many billions are coming in, but nonetheless, these recent claims are so bad that Israel is fighting to disband UNRWA, and the US and many other countries, including the UK, stopped sending money to it. Meanwhile, Humza Yousaf appears to be sending Scottish taxpayers' money as a ransom payment to this organisation that has proven terrorist links. I mean, but it's not just one thing, David, is it? I mean, we could say, all right, he just sent that, and maybe he made a mistake or whatever, but he seems to have quite a history of links to terror organisations.
Indeed. He also has a very selective methodology of picking the terrorist groups with whom he has a problem in terms of the stuff that he says and the stuff that he doesn't say. So, for example, during the SNP leadership campaign, it emerged that Humza had actually met with a senior Hamas commander, an actual leader of Hamas, known as Abu Ubaidah, in Holyrood in 2008 when he was a parliamentary secretary. And this happened despite BBC Panorama having identified Ubaidah 2 years earlier as having masterminded much of Hamas's political and military strategy. And yet Humza Yousaf met with him in Holyrood. Right, interesting. Now, for months, as you've said, Humza has made constant calls for an immediate ceasefire. It must be a ceasefire immediately, and having a go at Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak for not joining those calls. What he's talking about, exactly as you said, is he's calling for the IDF, the Israeli Defense Fund, to stop attacking Hamas. That's all he's talking about. He doesn't care about the Hezbollah and Hamas rockets, which are still hitting Israel as we speak. And he only ever mentions Israeli civilian hostages, you get the feeling, when he feels he has to. And it's always in the most cursory terms.
Well, I think I did a check before, and maybe I haven't checked in the last week or so. But let's say, I think 2 weeks ago, he hadn't mentioned the hostages since November.
Honestly. Wow.
Right? Yeah. And of course, so many appearances on TV, social media, and so on to talk about a ceasefire, of course, we all know. And of course, using the Hamas casualty numbers, which are several articles come out this week to show mathematically that they were faked. And, it's just like, okay, so you're using a terrorist organization's fake numbers to try and get a ceasefire that benefits that terrorist organization while claiming there's no aid going into Gaza. But when of course there is, and that aid is being stolen by that terrorist organization. It's like, okay, come on, mate.
Exactly, it's true. And also, as I mentioned, his selective speeches in reaction to any acts of terrorism. Last week, 280 children kidnapped from a Christian school in Nigeria by Islamic fundamentalist terrorists Boko Haram. Have a guess what Humza said about that? Not a thing, not a dicky. Now, last month also, he and his wife took a holiday in Qatar. What an interesting place to pick. I wonder if there's any coincidence or could there be any bearing on the fact that Hamas's leaders are holed up in their adopted home rather, in Qatar. I wonder, wow, interesting. These coincidences just mount up with Humza, don't they? It's amazing.
The thing that strikes me about all of this is that he doesn't seem to care about perception. I mean, he's gone to Qatar. He knows that everyone's going to call him out, right?
Because he thinks he's right. That's why he thinks he's righteous.
Yep. It's true,
right? So it doesn't matter. It's
he doesn't
like
care
Nicola
how bad
Sturgeon.
this looks.
It's the same as Nicola Sturgeon going to COP26. They don't care about that, and that's the problem. I mean, this is the thing. I think it comes down to. I mean, what has it got to do with us?
Yep.
Right. This is the Scottish Parliament shouldn't be. Why are we talking about this? This isn't. This is the majority show. It's about Scottish politics. Why are we talking about Gaza? We're talking about Gaza because Humza yourself has embroiled us in this situation. That has nothing to do with the wants or likes of the Scottish people. Now, okay, there may be some activists who go in the street, Palestinian, pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli, anti-Semites, whatever they are, on the streets, but they don't represent the majority of the people in Scotland. Right. So it was bad enough, as you pointed out, when Sturgeon was submitting to these global cults of transgenderism and climate change, but now he's trying to subject the citizens of Scotland to, this global religion. It's not our thing, it's not our thing.
No.
Right. So, I mean, I don't, whether you hate Islam or respect Islam or you're one of its adherents, that's not his role.
No.
His role is First Minister of Scotland, not First Minister of Gaza.
Quite.
I think this is the thing here.
And it's outside his remit.
Well, of course, that's the point. It's not what's he doing? Why is he doing this? He wasn't elected for it as well. So we're supposed to be bringing democracy closer to the citizens of Scotland. If the Scottish Parliament is supposed to have anything, it's supposed to bring democracy closer to Scottish people. But now it's further away. We have a First Minister who's only concerned about what's going on in Gaza. I mean, how's that bringing democracy closer to people? And then sending money to people without oversight, and I guess against the wishes of his advisors, in fact, as well. Sending money to a terrorist, an organisation that has links to terror.
And he doesn't care how it looks.
He doesn't.
That's what's quite shocking about the whole thing.
That's absolutely right, Mary. It's like he doesn't have any political instinct at all. I mean, really, it's just, this looks dreadful. It makes him look dreadful. And I can't remember if I said this, it's exactly like Corbyn used to be. He would appear at all of these wreath-laying ceremonies for dead terrorists, and he would say, "Oh, I think I was there, but I didn't do anything." And you just think, seriously, you're trying to be the Prime Minister? Are you joking? You just could not look more of a liar and an anti-Semite if you try. And this is exactly what Humza and his wife look like. They look like very openly unapologetic supporters of Hamas. That's what they look like. Whether they are or not, that's exactly the impression they both give, and they seem oblivious to it, or if not,
they don't care.
But maybe I mean, perhaps you're looking at it the wrong way, David. They're not necessarily the wrong way, from the wrong side.
Yeah.
From our side, we're looking, going, well, what the hell is he doing over there?
Right.
But maybe people in their side are going, this is great. We've got a guy in the inside here. He's getting on the TV. He's doing all this stuff, right? He's getting money for us.
Yep. It could be indeed.
Right.
I mean,
that's what they're doing. I mean, it's the same way with Sturgeon when she went to the COP26. We're like, what the hell's going on here? And she's like, oh, and the people there are like, oh yeah, we've got another one in our group now.
Yeah. Right.
We've got Hillary Clinton's like, oh yeah, come along with us, and we'll do the New World Order, whatever it is how they call it these days. So the people don't do things if they don't have an advantage for them.
Quite.
So there's obviously a lot of advantage there.
He obviously thinks he's getting something from all this posturing. He must do, he must do. Or he wouldn't keep doing it.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, it's a lot going on. And it's a lot going on. And we'll be back in a second to talk about actual Scottish issue that's coming up, which is the hate crime law, which is going to come into force on April the 1st. We'll be back in just a second. So glad to have you all with us. Again, we're having a big numbers coming into the show. That's because you have been telling your friends all about us, and we're people begin to know that this is the only place on the internet where you can get this kind of discussion. I mean, that show, they had that show, the 9 or the 7 or whatever it was called, and they canned. Yeah. Well, of course, the reason it was canned was because they've just got a bunch of idiots on there talking about nationalist topics, not talking about this kind of stuff. not getting, analysing and saying what the F is going on here. That's what people want, right? Well, I think certainly success of this show.
Well, the people watching our show, that's what they want.
Right,
so that's what we'll give them.
Well, it's not just that; that's how it is. That's the thing, right? Anyway, calling all snitches. Your time is coming in more ways than one. On April the 1st, when Humza Yousaf's hate crime bill comes into effect, making Scotland the most authoritarian place in the Western world. Offences included the offence of stirring up hatred against protected characteristics including age, disability, religion, sexual orientation, and gender identity. And also part of that includes the criminalisation of private conversations as well. And also potentially criminalising plays and other works of art. I think it's quite interesting that very few Scottish comedians stood up against this. We've talked about this in the show before, that they are kowtowing continually to the Scottish Nationalist administration. But a question here, what is going to happen to JK Rowling? We saw all this week that she is on the offensive against India Willoughby, calling India a man. And Willoughby reported her in England for crime, but it's not actually a crime there. But in a few weeks, it will be a crime here. Are we heading for a showdown, David?
Well, I'm kind of hoping we are, because I cannot see how you can support different hate crime laws within effectively different regions of the same country, albeit some different laws apply. So many cans of worms are opened up here. What if you're Scottish and you say something offensive about another Scottish person when you're in London? Or what law applies then? And to which court would you appeal if you were convicted? And what if an English person offends a Scot while online but in Scotland? I mean, how does it work? I don't understand that at all. So is it just that anybody who comes to Scotland immediately has to avoid offending anybody? Who knows? Anyway, but it's clear this is just not going to work. It's going to be yet more pitifully incompetent, wholly ill-conceived, unworkable SNP legislation, just like its main predecessor, the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act, which even Holyrood opposition party said, no, this won't do, and they got rid of it, thank God. It's got to happen again. I just don't see how you can make a crime out of words, which may be considered offensive, and I think the showdown will be, again, Westminster saying, you can't do this. You can't have different hate crime laws. You can't have people sent to jail for 7 years because they said something that somebody somewhere might consider offensive. So, and we all know that the Holyrood opposition aren't going to stop it. They're not capable. I mean, the only reason that the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act was overturned was because some of the SNP MPs voted against it themselves. So something's going to happen. This just seems utterly ludicrous, and they've learned nothing from the first attempt they made to put something completely unworkable through, which left all the onus on police people to say what's offensive. I mean, how are they supposed to know what's offensive? It's just an absolute joke.
Well, I think that's the problem. I think that but just to go back a second, I hadn't actually considered that there would be different laws in different parts of the country, and so it's a good point you make there. It really makes you think. So it's kind of like you go over the board, step 1 foot over the border, and shout something. Right. India Willoughby's a man. Oh, okay, it's fine in England, but I'll step over here. Oh, I can't say that. I mean, what kind of nonsense is that? I think perhaps and you've seen how the UK government has clamped down on the DRS and stuff like that early on. Perhaps it's maybe better to play this out a bit. We also see that Nicola Sturgeon, she couldn't say whether transgender prisoner was a man or a woman, right? Would she be prosecuted under this as well? Because someone could say that's what by omission is it hate speech? Perhaps not. But anyway, as we all know, these laws are a gift to authoritarians. They allow politicians to police every word, and they allow arbitrary meanings to be applied to words as well. What is a woman? Right, it depends on who is talking at this particular point in time, and a dictionary might not apply, and even maybe common sense may not apply. And does even a legal opinion on it apply?
Yep.
Do you know? We've seen that played out right now, and then of course that all leads to the policing being arbitrary as well. So you have an ambiguous law that is policed arbitrarily. And that means that you, the ordinary citizen, are the whims of those in power. And by that I mean politicians, police, the courts, tomorrow decide that a particular word is offensive or a way of thinking offensive, then you're off to the gulag. And
Well, the thing that worries me is that I think there are going to be some victims in this.
of course, there are going to be victims in it.
And I feel sorry for whoever gets caught up in this.
Yeah.
I mean, until such times as, you know, they finally admit that it's a whole load of nonsense and get rid of it all, there will be innocent victims.
Mm.
Well, I mean, there were victims of I keep talking about the offensive behaviour at football. Like, I'm a 19-year-old guy walking to a football ground, singing a song, no previous convictions. Some policeman hears him and he gets sent to jail for like 2 months or whatever. How is that going to cure any of society's ills by sending a 19-year-old boy into the prison system? It doesn't work.
Now, if you're under 25, you don't go to prison.
Quite, yeah. Well, I guess it depends what the offence is, but yeah, you're right. It's ludicrous. So yeah, that's the criminal.
But I feel sorry for the 57-year-olds who might end up in prison for saying what we think, maybe on a show on the internet or something.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's part of the big part of this, of course, and this is the thing that they love, is that we have to indulge in self-censorship. For example, right, in our previous section, we talked about Humza Yousaf sending money to potentially a terrorist aligned organisation. If Humza Yousaf then complains to Stephen Kerr, MSP, and to us, for example, and says that we're Islamophobic for criticising them. Now, just before we came on the air, it was reported that the police were going to investigate every allegation of every complaint of hate speech. There it is there.
Well, how the hell does that work when the police have said this week also that there's going to be so many crimes that they're not going to bother investigating, like burglaries or robberies or muggings or whatever, unless they've got cameras and so on, camera footage?
No, that's no, because
but they're going to investigate these crimes instead.
Yeah, that's it. So basically, so what are you going to say? I mean, if you're going to say, someone could report this show right now and say they're criticising Humza Yousaf and they hate Humza Yousaf and they hate Islam, right? Despite the disclaimers and so on put in. So, and then that's going to be reported to the police. We're going to have the police at our door, right?
Yep. Investigating that, but if we called them and said we've been robbed, there's been a burglary, then they won't turn up.
Well, what we need to do then, of course, is we say there's been a robbery and we think that it might have been Islamophobic.
Yeah, quite.
So,
I'm offended that I've been robbed. They'll turn up for being offended.
It's a hate crime anyway. So to avoid the possibility of a crime being noted, crime which of course has enormous, we can laugh, but has enormous social implications. If you get a hate speech conviction against you, it's going to be quite difficult to get a job, I think, in some cases, or to prove your career and so on, whatever it is. In fact, we know of someone who was who had that problem, and it follows them around in social media for a long time. So this is the problem. People will just stay quiet and they won't speak up. But like when we first started Majority and people said to us, "Oh, you better not start this because people will pan in your windows and it'll cause all kinds of trouble." And we're a bit like, "Oh, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't." But if someone attacked us, then we would have the law behind us. But in this case, we wouldn't have the law behind us at all. That's not to mention if we're actually talking about Islamophobia itself. It's a fake word. Of course, we're scared of Islamic terror, but of course there are many, many peaceful Muslims and people, just ordinary Muslims in our communities as well, right? So, but at the same time, Islam shouldn't be given a free pass. It's that it can't be criticised. What if you just say what I think? I read the Quran and XXX. I'm not even going to say this is a self-censorship in action. Right? So I'm not going to say this. We all know the different things that we could possibly say about it. And then that's a hate crime. But why should this religion or any religion be placed above any others? That seems just like blasphemy laws coming back again. I mean, that's the thing. If Humza Yousaf says this is Islamophobia, when he's doing a transaction with a terrorist organization that may not be, I mean, of course they're Islamic together, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's anything to do with the religion, right?
Absolutely.
So it seems like blasphemy laws are coming back.
Yes.
David.
Yeah, it's true. It seems like we're living through a real life version of Monty Python's Life of Brian. You remember the scene where the guy was getting stoned because he said the word Jehovah. And so because he said
that, don't say
Jehovah.
Don't say exactly. So I might as well say Jehovah. Stoned anyway. So that's how ludicrous it is. I mean, you can't have one-sided blasphemy laws. But I've got to say this, guys. It looks like nothing more than, yet again, the SNP, because let's be honest, this is an SNP initiative. We know it is. They're pandering to elements of their core vote, as they've done for years in relation to, for example, the sectarian divide in Scottish football, where it seems clear that, in their view, one side is constantly guilty while transgressors from the other side are ignored. You can't do that. It's a blatant hypocrisy. That's not justice. That's just, it's either favouring one side or it's fear of one side, as it appears to be with Islamists. So you've got people like the Archbishop of Canterbury yesterday saying, about all this stuff about Ramadan. Well, that's wonderful, and stressing this stuff about the important role that Muslims play in our community. That's wonderful also. But it just reminds me of the guy in, another film reference, The Godfather 2, where he'd been set up and he thought he'd murdered a prostitute. So he'd been a big critic of Italian Americans in the mob, but they wheel him out and he says, I would just like to thank the Italian Americans for the wonderful role they play in this country. And that's what it looks like. It looks like it's because somebody's got a gun to his head. It's just not real, any of it.
Well, yeah, it feels a bit like that. And so there's quite a lot of pandering. I was quite surprised the other day when I was in the charity shop, and on the radio it said there was an ad for Morrison's, and it said this Ramadan blah blah blah. I was like, oh, okay, this is a bit different. Okay, if it kind of, well, what about this Lent or this solstice or whatever it is? It's like, okay, there's a lot of pandering going on, not necessarily through terror, perhaps new markets to some extent as well, but it does seem a little bit unusual, perhaps.
Well, I think that's quite good, but as you say, I think that if you're going to do that, then you have to treat all religions the same, don't you? So you have to give them equal airtime as well.
Right. Now, if you have been wondering how to report a hate crime, do not fear.
Where should we go, Mark? Where should we go?
Well, the Police Scotland have released a list of the places where they should go. And one of those is this, and this is good for you, Mary, perhaps, is a sex shop in Glasgow.
Oh, great. Yes.
I just had to put note to Mary, not to David there. Okay. Police Scotland Scotland say that if you're not comfortable reporting a hate crime to the police,
you'd be more comfortable in a sex shop.
You can use a hate crime third-party reporting centre. That's nice Orwellian language, that, isn't it? Such as Luke and Jack's sex shop in Glasgow.
Oh, this is just getting ridiculous.
Now you can report hate and masturbate. Where you will be whipped into line. And I was going to write some more, but I don't know.
We'll need to. We'll have to keep that going.
Yes,
I think.
Yes, but wait. But here's a quite interesting thing. Seriously, folks, there's a big list actually of these places you can go and report, people for all kinds of things, nonsense, and so on. But it's kind of surprising to see this list. It's like, how did this list start? Yeah. How, so many questions. Who paid for this? Why are police? Well, this is the big question, actually. Why do you need to have these organisations when you should just go to the police station or call the police or send an email? What's unsafe about doing that? Why would you? Why is doing those channels?
Who feels safer in a sex shop? It's just outrageous. I mean, really.
Oh, so you can do a 2-for-1. You can get some rubber knickers, and at the same time, you can report a hate crime.
Yep.
Right. But where's the checks? I saw this. Did you see it too, David? Ian Smart's thing here.
Exactly. Posted in his capacity as a criminal lawyer. And he said, until 2 days ago, I haven't even heard of third-party reporting centres. No, he posed 20 questions. How do you choose them? Who chose them? How were they advertised? What are they being paid? Can anyone apply? And what did Police Scotland think about the suggestion that police stations aren't safe and considered safe places to report crimes? And loads of others. And, it struck me. I wondered if it's maybe because, remember Sean Clerkin and that other chat from the Scottish Resistance?
Oh, yes.
They were refused the facility to report the international war crime in a police station. They wouldn't take it. They just said,
so they go into a sex shop?
Exactly. Maybe that's it.
It's an international hate crime.
That must be it. They'll be able to go in there.
And by the way, can I have...
Where's my magazine in this month?
Exactly, yeah. God, oh no. What next? I do not know. But no, it's just yet more SNP.
I like this one. He's not a Muslim First Minister. He's just a very naughty boy.
I like it. Yeah, very good.
Yes,
I mean, this has gone from the sublime to the ridiculous, hasn't it? I mean,
well, it was never sublime.
Okay,
It's gone from the ridiculous to the insane.
To the even more. Yeah, it's totally bonkers.
Well, maybe that's it, bonkers.
I mean, international media, if they pick up on this, that people in Scotland are going to report hate crimes in a sex shop.
Well, I mean, it's also a bit insidious, isn't it? Really, the idea that this hate crime bill isn't just a thing between the government and the police and the courts, right? But it's kind of going out into the community, right? What is next is going to be, in the old days, you used to have the police box, and at the end of each street, kind of thing. Well, maybe it'll go to your local box and report your hate crime there, type of thing. Or, I mean, it sets this idea up that there's all this hate going on. Oh, hate everywhere, and I mean,
we're all looking out for it.
We're all looking out for it. But I mean, these organisations paid to do that, and if they're paid, then the government will want results. Many of these organisations are not paid by the government, but they're funded by the government anyway. They'll be wanting to get results.
Well, yeah, they have all, like the police when they have those quotas for like parking tickets, or they have quotas for stopping drunk drivers and all that type of thing. They might have quotas for reported hate crimes.
Could be.
Oh, they will probably. Okay. So, all right. So anyway, we'll move on from that one there. It's like a farce, almost like a Kafka kind of thing. It's so bizarre. People wouldn't actually believe it to be true.
No, I'm finding it hard to believe this sex shop thing.
No, it's in there. It's on the thing. It's on there.
There is a sex shop apparently in the list of designated safe centres. There's also a demolished office block as well. So good luck going along there, guys. The place doesn't exist anymore. But I mean, that's the SNP for you. When did they ever focus on any detail? What a joke.
Oh, someone said here, I was just reporting a crime, honest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, yes. What happens if the hate crime happens inside the sex shop?
When you go to report that, I wouldn't feel safe.
Right. Anyways, okay. That's the end of that for now, so to speak. Right, we're going to, next up, David is going to give his thoughts on the resignation of his pal, Jason Leitch. So we'll see you in just a few seconds. Right. Thank you all for being with us. We almost have 500 simultaneous viewers right now, which is quite achievement. Thank you all for watching.
Can't hear you, Mark.
Thank you all for watching and supporting the show. Did you hear the beginning part of that?
No, not only then, but...
Only then, but all right, okay.
Do you want to say it again? Because it's worth saying.
Just thank you all for supporting us in our journey as well, almost at 500 followers. So,
no, 500 simultaneous viewers at this moment.
Thank you, Mary. Keeping me right. Wow. Right, David, tell us about your pal then.
Well, yes, indeed. We overplay this a bit. I happened to bump into Jason Leitch on a train once, and I actually spent a very pleasant hour chatting with him. Very, very interesting. A very nice man indeed. Spoke very candidly and told me a very, very interesting snippet, which I can't share because it's too secret.
Oh, come on.
No, you guys know it. You guys know it. And a lot of people have talked to know also. Anyway, right, okay. That's a story for another time, but it will come out, I promise you. Anyway, so yesterday, farewell Jason Leitch, Scotland's National Clinical Director, announced his intention to resign next month to pursue other interests or whatever. I'm sure he'll have no trouble getting further work. But straight away, of course, several nationalists praised Jason Leitch's contribution to Scottish public health in the most glowing terms, again giving the impression of obediently following a memo from Bute House. So you had Neil Gray, the Health Secretary, you had Humza himself, Jim Fairley, Mary Todd, Swinney, naturally the toady. They all came out and said pretty much the same thing. Jason Leitch was a voice of calm during COVID. He was a great communicator and blah, 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 and he's contributed so much. Okay, fine. So if you just remember what had happened, Jason Leitch, who was, I believe, an oral surgery consultant, had become Scotland's National Clinical Director. He's basically a dentist, a kind of upmarket dentist, and very learned. And he got involved in the COVID campaign, and he was pretty much the guy giving, if you like, the medical advice and giving the medical say-so, this is what you should do. But pretty soon it became clear, or it had become clear pretty much from the start of all those TV, if you like, one-to-ones that Sturgeon kept insisting she had to do. He was pretty much doggedly maintaining the party line, and the party line was pretty much the SNP line and the safety first, absurdly far more safe and far more safety conscious than the rest of the UK line that Sturgeon wanted to follow. So first off, he was telling kids to wear masks in school, which it soon became clear was serving no purpose whatever and was just impairing them. He famously said to families, you know, if you're, it's okay having dinner together, but maybe you remember what it's like if grandma come round, you would put up the pasting table. So maybe you can do that, or I'll sit with your dinner on your lap. And you just think, honestly, mate, please, just jump in the shark with that nonsense.
And everyone has a pasting table that we just keep around for pulling out for dinner.
What's the pasting table for me? I missed that part.
That's when you put wallpaper up.
No, I know that. I know what a pasting table is.
Yeah. Well, during COVID, they wanted us so that people would be further apart when they were having their Christmas dinner.
Oh, I see.
They wanted us to use the pasting table rather than the dining table.
The traditional sitting around the table and breathing on each other, presumably. So despite this, even after Sturgeon resigned a year ago, and I think she was just starting then to get some, if you like, criticism about her role in the COVID inquiry. That Leitch was still, he was still pretty much intact. I mean, so much so you could sit on a train, having cycled there as when I met him, and nobody gave him any hassle. Everybody could recognise him, and nobody did at all. I think that'd be a bit different now, I think. Exactly, yeah, apart from me. But then came the COVID inquiry, and in which he probably hadn't. I mean, he's possibly the biggest victim of the WhatsApp scandal, in as much as some stuff that he said came out and really didn't look all that good. He had famously said that deleting WhatsApp messages had become a pre-bed ritual. He also had given Humza Yousaf advice, which Humza had solicited, in fairness, asking about what he could do if he was out. Did he have to wear a mask? And Jason Leitch had famously said, if you're standing up, you've got a glass in your hand, you're pretty much okay. Just sounded a little bit not exactly.
Yeah, the tone.
And also he called some Tory MSP. He said he'd acted like a child and called a Labour MP a smart arse. Didn't really look good. And so, of course, as always happens in Scotland, the opposition MSP said he's got to step down. He must step down. And so yesterday, duly, he did so. Now, what's his legacy, would we say? Well, many of his allies have praised the Scottish Patient Safety Programme, which apparently he helped to steer through, which has led to drops, apparently, in sepsis deaths and stuff like that. Very, very laudable, if so. Congratulations, well done. But some of them have said, look, he's done great work as Scotland's clinical director over 17 years, because he did actually start working with the Scottish Government just at the time that the SNP first won an election in Holyrood in 2007.
Seems like, I mean, just to break in, it does seem an awful long time to be enrolled, doesn't it?
It absolutely. And really,
was he paid for that? I mean, was that his job?
He's paid for it. He's also got a job up in Tayside Health Service as well. I imagine in that line, I would imagine he's getting quite handsomely rewarded. Yes, I would guess. So I don't know. But very oddly, what struck me today was the very same people who praised his record during those 17 years are saying stuff like, it's crucial that we get the right guy, and that Scotland's health and care systems are on their knees. Hang on, guys, have you actually thought that one through? So this guy's done a great job for 17 years. He's left. It's terrible. He's left. But Scotland's health and care systems are absolutely down the pan.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm a little bit confused. Sorry, to be honest. What's the difference between the clinical director and the Minister for Health?
The Health Minister, exactly. Well, I think the Health Minister just pretty much does whatever his advisors tell him, and I would think his chief advisor is probably the clinical director, but I really don't know. I mean, let's face it, the last health minister was Michael Matheson. What did he do? Well, he's good at using the internet when he's on holiday, but I suspect that's about as far as it goes. So I think the health minister in Scotland is pretty much an empty shirt, really. It's an empty suit. It's nothing. I don't imagine they do anything. I mean, you look at the calibre of people. Humza was health minister, wasn't he? And Sturgeon was. Jean Freeman. It's like who's who.
It's like a rogues gallery.
Well, I'm going to be talking about the health system in a minute. So
I mean,
exactly. So
you wouldn't let them run a menage, as the expression goes. You wouldn't let them run a tea shop.
It certainly wouldn't.
Never mind people's lives, exactly. In the balance and so on. Yeah. Why are these people not actually? Why are they not? I mean, I'm not saying that I would do that either, but why weren't there actual doctors and people who ran health administrations? Why
it could certainly be more people like that. But of course, the leading epidemiologist, is it Hugh Pennington?
Yes,
Pennington. Wasn't even consulted. arrested because apparently, well, he's English for one thing, and he's anti-nationalist. So
Stephen Marden is saying that we had a very qualified virologist, but he isn't a nationalist.
Exactly right.
So he didn't get the job.
Yeah. So in terms of my view of his legacy, I'm sure he's a very nice. I'm sure he did a passable job of communicating to to Scotland at a time when people were frightened and it was a really, really scary time and nobody really knew what to do. Yeah, he stepped up, I'm sure he did a good enough job, made some poor decisions, probably said some silly things, and he's paid the price. But it's interesting that nobody else from the health service, from the SNP in any event, has really paid the price and been a casualty yet. None of the previous health ministers had to leave, apart from the one who was caught literally taking money from the taxpayer with a fraudulent claim. So he can probably consider himself a little bit unfortunate, but I wouldn't waste any tears on him. I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine. So what's his legacy? Well, he did a job. Was probably a little bit too pro-party line when his contribution will be assessed in years to come, would be my guess.
Well, I think, ultimately, the blame is going to fall on Sturgeon after all. The cutting off the doors, the bottom of the doors, goes into ridicule. But more, I think, we can laugh at that, but of course, there's the care home deaths, which still has to come out, and more information come out about that. And the other thing, which I've forgotten which right now, but anyway, there's just that, of course, keeping children masked up for political purposes for over a year.
For years.
I think that's really disgraceful.
I'm afraid so.
I just don't see. Can you? Well, I'm not really saying about her not having children of her own, but I don't think anyone who had children of their own would want them to be masked up for any reason.
The kids all had red, their faces were all red rashes because they had to keep a mask against their face for years. Right. Horrible.
Thanks for that, David. We have an interesting section coming up. Mary is going to talk about her personal experiences in the NHS over the past few weeks. So, but before that happens, please, if you do like the show, and we do a lot of stuff. It takes a lot to prepare for this, as you can imagine. Please do, at the minimum, if you can give us a like, that would be great. If you can, please donate to the show. We have some, you can go to our website to donate. You can also use the YouTube super thanks, super stickers to donate. Those are great. Just hit the button, put a wee bit of cash in. It's all used in our mission to fight toxic nationalism in Scotland. Of course, if you want to look great, of course, you can get a T-shirt as well, just like I have here. Anyway, of course, I do look great. But anyway, Mary, it's going to be up to you in just a second.
Thank you. Well, tonight I want to talk about my recent experience with the NHS, doctors, hospitals, and the care system in Scotland, and how this crisis is getting worse. It's a personal story, so thank you for staying with me. My poor mum recently, she got shingles. She's 83, coming up on 84, and she's now developed post-herpetic neuralgia in her head.
What?
Day and night is excruciating when she gets attacked, which are basically like electric shocks to the head, and they can last a few minutes. She spent 9 days in hospital where they gave her meds, which do absolutely nothing for the pain, including morphine, and told her that there's no more that can be done. It just takes time, take the medicine, and hopefully she might recover in a few months or years or never. So it's a horrible, horrible situation. So while, she was at the hospital, I asked if she could be transferred to a neurology ward in the hospital, but I was told that wasn't possible. Now, she was in Monklands, and we got very good care, but I was told that wasn't possible because in the whole of the west of Scotland, so if you take Glasgow, Ayrshire, Argyll, everywhere, there are only 20 neurology beds in the whole of the west of Scotland. And of course, those are only used for the most serious of serious cases in neurology. So I said, okay, I understand. Would it be possible to have her referred to a neurologist then? And I was told that could take months. At Monklands Hospital, which is a very busy, very large general hospital, they have one neurologist who comes 1 day a week from Glasgow, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Glasgow. And that one neurologist has to see all the inpatients in the hospital that might need to see them, and all the outpatients that have been making appointments for weeks or months or however long it takes. And I was told that service only started again last week. For months, they had nobody coming to Monklands.
No neurologist at all?
No neurologist at all. Nobody.
Right.
For months. So this is the 1 day a week. I said, okay, fine. I said, well, we can take her. We'll bundle her up in the car somehow, and we'll take her to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Glasgow. And I was told, I'm sorry, that's not possible. We can't do that. You can only come to Monklands.
Right.
So that wasn't going to work. Now, the thing about my mum was that up until she got shingles, she was very fit, very healthy, took complete care of herself, driving around, doing her own groceries, cleaning, everything. And basically now she's housebound and she needs round-the-clock care at the moment. We don't know how long it's going to take her to convalesce. A thing I was told was that the hospital, before she would get out of hospital, that they would put a care package in place before she got home. But when I asked for that at the hospital, they said, well, it can take about 6 weeks. And I said, oh, God. So basically, but she would have to stay in hospital for those 6 weeks so that they could wait for this care package to get put in place.
Yep.
So all they would be doing is just giving her meds,
Yep.
the same as we do at home. And she would be taking up a bed,
yep.
waiting, for this thing to happen. So I think that's probably what they mean by bed blocking, or how a lot of old people end up spending weeks and months in the hospital. It's because they don't have a care package in place at home so that they can let them go. But my mum was desperate to get out, so we basically took her home because it's so noisy in the hospital she can't even sleep. So when we got home, I called the social work department and told them, I said, look, we need immediate help here with care.
Yeah.
And they've told me that it currently takes 8 weeks just to get an assessment, and weeks after that to actually get anyone to come out and help us with care. Now, we've been providing up till now 24-hour care, but we can't keep doing that. The family have got jobs and, other things to do, but it's going to be 8 weeks to even get an assessment. So that's where we're at. And I have to say, I'd just like to say that every GP, doctor, nurse, and social worker that we dealt with have been sympathetic, caring, and eager to help, but they don't have the resources to provide what my mum and we as a family need. And this situation in Scotland is just getting worse.
Yeah.
I've read today that a record number of nurses and midwives, nearly 7,000, left the NHS in Scotland last year. The main reason is retirement. So what they do is they retire from the NHS and then they go to work in agencies.
Yes.
Because the agencies give them more flexible working arrangements. And record low numbers of nurses are joining the profession. So they're leaving at the top and hardly anyone's coming in at the bottom. And the Scottish Health Boards are spending about £500 million a year on agency staff.
Really? Wow.
So obviously agency staff are much, much more expensive than NHS staff. So you kind of have the same number of people, the same number of staff,
yes.
But the Scottish health system has to pay so much more for it because these people are now employed by agency. So the budget balloons for the same number of staff. Now, the British Medical Association of Scotland say that doctors working in Scotland are regularly concerned about the unsafe levels of medical staffing. They've said, we're in a medical workforce crisis and we need more doctors and other healthcare workers to keep up with the demands of an ageing, frailer and growing population. The Scottish Government must wake up to this reality and take immediate action.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's an absolute crisis. And then there's the care system. I think I reported last year on the Scottish Government's flagship shake-up of the country's care services, which has now been delayed by 3 years, and the potential costs have doubled to more than £2 billion.
Wow.
The SNP Social Care Minister, Mary Todd, recently revealed there's about 160 civil servants were still working on it, and an average monthly cost of £800,000 a month. They're working on this care bill, but most people think that the whole thing is just going to be scrapped because it's unworkable. So there's millions and millions and millions of pounds down the drain that could have been put into the health system.
Yeah.
We could have hired more carers, or hire more people to work in the system. So I think, thinking about this, because it obviously keeps me awake at night, but I'm thinking this is all just bad leadership and bad management. There's plenty of money sloshing around, but it's not being deployed in the right ways or the most efficient ways. We really need leadership to look at the big picture and how the road ahead looks. They seem to be just like reactive. Oh my God, it's coming up to winter, and we've got A&E, and how are we going to get the wait times down, which of course is a worthy endeavour. But nobody seems to be really looking ahead and planning ahead and thinking, how are we really going to deal with health and with the NHS and with the care systems in Scotland? I mean, these systems are getting worse. 8 weeks for an assessment.
It's
going to get worse. It's going to be 12 weeks. It's
right.
like people will die.
Yeah, no doubt.
While all of this is going on. So I would say the glaring truth is that Scotland's SNP and Green ministers they're not up to the job. Now, you listed who those previous ministers were. And basically the talent pool is a puddle.
It's not even a puddle.
Their useful experience, a desert, and their competence, a dangerous drought.
Right.
Very good.
I mean, you've got people looking after this who are just they're. I mean, let's put it plainly: they're pretty much the dregs of society. They haven't done any real work in their lives. They haven't managed anything. They were hired simply because they were loyal to the party or friends of Nicola Sturgeon. That's basically what happened. So what competence do these people have? I've asked for this many times. There are people out there, like one of our best friends, a guy who runs a multinational organization, thousands of employees. He knows how to manage big organizations. These people don't know how to do that. They need to get people like that in and help sort it and try and get these things sorted out. It's
we
really
can't
crazy.
have people playing at it anymore. I mean, we need some serious talent to come in and say, okay, this is what's needed, to move these resources from here to there, and and the budget that's being used there should be used over there. It really needs an overall. But in Scotland, we're changing the health minister all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even on a personal level, right? You'll be able to look after your mum and so on, your family's, of course, rallied round. But what about the people who don't have families? Right, who should rally around them? What happens to them? Are they going to wait 8 weeks for an assessment? Are they just going to be carted off to some home somewhere and that's the end of it? That's not care. That's abdication of responsibility. So you need to, as you say, you need to get people in here who at least have some competence.
It needs leadership. It needs people who know how to lead a big project like this,
right.
And can actually turn things around. Because I think there's enough money. I mean, they say there's never enough money. You always want more money, but there is an awful lot of money going into all of this. But I just don't think it's being deployed in the right way.
It strikes me as being the classic public sector approach to an issue which really desperately needs private sector initiative, because you're not going to, you won't fix a mammoth organisation like the Scottish NHS overnight. It takes people who actually know how to go in and say, right, okay, first off, the first thing you do is you do a strengths, weakness, opportunity and threats analysis. You do all that first off, and then you work out what's good, what's bad, and what has to change. There seems no appetite to do that. There's just a bigger
There's no continuity.
None at all.
Also, I mean, I think it sounds. We were in the States for 8 years, and the big advantage of the United States health service. Now, UK people are very down on it, right? Because they get very biased propaganda about what happens in America. But in America, because there's so much competition for your insurance money, that basically you can walk in to a clinic. We used to have the clinic down the road from us. You could walk in, you could get all your your blood and all your tests done that day while you wait. Instead of how long did they say to you, Mary? Some ridiculous length of time for something, and while you wait, then you could get a CAT scan in a few days.
Wow. Because
they're all incentivized to fight against each other, and actually, while it's expensive for the insurance, I'm not doing that in sense that the competition is really high, so it does actually drive prices down as well.
But you get great healthcare.
So you get really great healthcare. Now the problem, of course, in America is that there are people who can't afford insurance, and what really should have there is a system where you've got emergency care. If something really
they have Medicare. And
Medicaid. They have that. But if you're a normal working person, and that's 85% of the population, then you really don't have a problem there. And you see that. But I put something up the other day. Someone said, "Oh, put this chart up about how America was so bad," and all that. I'm like, it walked in, and stuff. It's great. The healthcare's brilliant. And they're like, oh no, because it's just so much of a hot potato, and there's so much conflicting information about what's actually going on, and people haven't experienced these things. No. We've also experienced healthcare in Japan, which is a bit of a nightmare. But so different countries have different things. Now, I think that certainly we could put in a better system than have that promotes competition inside the organisations and gets better results for patients. But it just seems a long way away. Sure. It does.
Yeah. And in the meantime, it's getting worse. So it needs a turnaround. It needs leadership. Definitely. And can I just say one last little thing? Sure. If any of our viewers are so inclined, if you could please say a little prayer for my mum, I know that she would very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Bless.
Well, thank you, Mary, for telling us your story there. It's
that's why I haven't been on the show a few times in the last few weeks.
Yeah. It's when we'll talk about the politics and so on, but at a certain point it does become personal. So, and I think we all worry, what's going to happen to us.
So at the moment, it's maybe our parents. A lot of us, it's our parents, but soon it will be us.
Yes,
exactly. Very, very soon for me. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, okay. Thank you very much for that, Mary. Okay. Things you can do right now to support the show. You can make a donation to the Majorities Crowdfunder, which is on our website, or hit that super thanks or super likes, some super sticker button as well. Buy a t-shirt or mug or t-shirt. That's not quite in the screen there. Which is great. That makes us. You can tell all your friends about us, and you can do all of the above, which makes us feel really appreciated. Underline exclamation mark. Coming up, it's the moment you've all been waiting for, the highlight of the week. It is Zoomer of the Week.
Hooray.
Yay.
Right, try to keep track of where we are.
We are running very long tonight. We have definitely record numbers.
Yes,
555 people, all the fives.
Wow.
Yes. So my Zoomer of the week is Richard Lockhead, who is SNP Minister for Small Business, Innovation, Tourism and Trade. He decided to have a nice wee jolly in LA on the taxpayers' expense, running up £2,500 on chauffeur-driven limousines. As you do. Yes, he did. I'll try to find the thing here. Okay, well, for a 3-day trip. That included a 15-minute speech at a conference. It was originally reported that he'd ran up a bill of £11,000.
What is it with £11,000?
True, yeah.
Yes. But then it was revealed he actually had ran up a bill of £26,000.
In 3 days?
Yes, in 3 days.
I think they're having a competition, all these SNP people.
And not only, as I mentioned, he had he spent his £2,500 on taxpayer cash to do this.
To get chauffeured around?
Around for 3 days, and that's not including the travel time. So it's probably only there for a day or two, right? Oh, what's that? That's weird. Okay. Anyway, so... Has this moron never heard of Zoom?
Here's a very elegant comment about your guy. He says, Lockhead's a dick. I saw him in Tesco Elgin and tried to speak to him. He ran off.
Chauffeur-driven limousine. Anyway, apparently this was all to do with space, the final frontier, perhaps. And he went there to promote Scottish space companies. But I don't see how 15 minutes at a conference would do really that much good, especially considering that if he's talking with LA or California venture capitalists, the first thing they will ask is, what is the economic stability of the region that we are going to invest all our money in? And when he said, well, actually, what we want to do is destroy that, then the answer is hard pass. So I suggest that the space he's looking for is inside his tiny head.
Here.
So, anyway, it's a short one from me this week.
Very good.
To boldly go where no taxpayer-funded chauffeur-driven vehicle has ever gone before. Okay. All right, we'll try not to ad-lib. I can't even say it. Right, okay, next up. It's going to be Mary. It's not going to be Mary, is it?
No, it's David.
It always says you next.
I'm always last. Oh, right, really? Okay. How does it say that?
No, okay. All right, David, you're up next.
Okay. My nomination for Zoomer of the Week is SNP member of the Scottish Parliament, Christine Grahame, showing her traditional grasp of priority after her famous outburst about the poor XL bully dogs a couple of weeks ago. Christine Grahame
poor wee dogs.
Yeah, that's crazy. She loves them apparently. Anyway, so she has now spoken about something even more important, and that is the standard and quality of meals at lunch in the garden lobby at Holyrood. Christine claimed in an email, the lunch meal quality has deteriorated over the months, although she stressed that the staff were all brilliant. It's just that the food's terrible. And as I tweeted yesterday,
and why has this been announced in Holyrood?
It's emerged in a story in the press. It appears that an email's been leaked, which I'll come on to in a sec. But as I said, I was this morning actually. Christine Grahame seemed very happy to be tucking into lunch in the very heavily subsidised, might I add, Holyrood effectively members and their guests canteen. When I was in Holyrood last month, she looked extremely happy, very chipper as she ate away and then disappeared on a mobility scooter. Seemed anything but. I'm happy with the quality of the fare on show. But the idea that an MSP on a salary of about 70,000 would not only take advantage of massively discounted, I mean, you wouldn't believe the prices, food, but have the gall to moan about it is very telling. But what's even more important, as Mary's just said, is how do we know about this? Somebody's obviously leaked the email. So,
right.
Whether she said,
did she send an email out complaining about the food?
Exactly.
What? Who does that?
Why would you?
Yes, I want Scottish independence, and by the way, the food's rubbish.
Exactly, and this says much about the state of the SNP right now. As you know, I always quote movies. It reminds me of a movie, Woody Allen's famous Annie Hall, where there are two elderly ladies in an establishment in the Catskills, and one says to the other, "The food here is terrible," and the other says, "Yeah, I know, in such small portions too." And that's typical, You can't be given something and without complaining about it. But of course, Woody said it for a laugh and possibly the finest comedy movie ever made, whereas Christine Grahame, it seems, meant every word. So
Serious?
How can you be so dumb? I don't know. I give up.
I'm being told she said mince and tatties were very good, but a bit salty.
Salty, that's right.
That's a shame.
Brilliant, Christine.
I mean, with everything going on in Scotland, let's all say,
She could always give them to the bully dogs.
Maybe she could give some food to the homeless people.
Oh no! There's an idea. Take it along to the homeless shelter under the.
You don't get subsidised.
Or she could try the Red Coat Cafe. It's quite nearby.
There's a good idea. Go up there, see what the food's like there. Anyway, so that's it. So that's why she's my nomination for Zoomer.
That is definitely Zoomer material, I have to say.
Yeah, it's better than mine. I get someone dissed mine. Grumpy dissed mine.
That's ruined your week, Mark.
Sad. I did have another one, but I can't remember what it was right now. Anyway, whatever. Okay, Mary, you're going to be up.
Okay. Okay. My Zoomer of the week is Monica Lennon, Scottish Labour MSP, although you wouldn't know it. She's like an SNP cuckoo in the wrong nest.
Oh, very good, Mary.
This week, Monica was declaring solidarity with Humza Yousaf.
As you do.
I don't think she knows what her job is. She's in the opposition. Yes. I don't think she realises how that works. She said solidarity with Humza Yousaf and everyone impacted by these dangerous smears. With Islamophobia and anti-Semitism on the rise, I wonder why, our communities are being let down by divisive political actors. The politicking fueling these headlines is very much part of the problem. What kind of a world does she live in, Monica? Divisive political actors. Can we think of anyone that might fit the role? I mean, the whole thing is just a joke from start to finish. But I mean, the bigger point is which part of the Telegraph article wasn't true. Basically, Humza gave her money to people who participated in the 7th of October massacre. We talked about this earlier, against official advice, taking the money away from UNICEF, adding £50,000 because he felt like it, and then uses Islamophobia as an excuse for his actions. And Monica is standing in solidarity with him.
Yes. Well, what if it's just like
anything to say, guys, on this one?
It's just Monica continually disappoints, unfortunately, and I really don't understand why she does this. The whole purpose of Labour in Scotland, as I see it, is to attract votes from people who might be lukewarm on the idea of independence, not just to kowtow to the guys who are actually actively trying to achieve independence. What are you doing? Why are you doing this?
I just don't get, like, Labour stole all your votes.
Yep, quite. Yeah,
They stole all your votes by pretending to be socialists. Isn't that enough for
They're
you?
not your pals.
Quite. They would happily see you out of a job, Monica. Please.
She's definitely a cuckoo, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Anyway, somewhat cuckoo. Yeah, we could do without that. We need a stronger opposition. We don't need that kind of nonsense.
That's not opposition.
That's anything but, exactly, yeah. I wonder if you'll vote against the hate crimes bill. Not a chance. So, no, not at all.
Right, David actually turns out you to decide here. So you've got my guy with the space between his head.
Well, Richard Lockhead lives up to the SNP's reputation for squandering money on absolutely nothing.
Yes.
Quite tempted by Christine Grahame, but it's a bit too trivial, I think. I'm going to give it to Monica, and this is a statutory lesson to any Labour figures watching. You won't beat the SNP by appeasing them. Please stop it. It's not funny. It's not clever.
That's true. And the same message can be said also to the Scottish Tories and party as well. You're not going to get anywhere doing that. We've passed that. Surely we should be past that stage by now. And there's many other ways to deal with these things. You can, even if you did agree with them, then you could say something privately or not in public. This is the way. I might just mention just briefly, like what's his name? Douglas Ross there, coming out saying, he didn't like the decision there about the Northeast windfall tax. It's like, the decision was made. Just shut up about it now. It doesn't help you moaning on about it.
The people are making the comments about Monica Lennon. Basically, that's why I don't trust Labour, and that is the problem.
Well, that is part of the problem. But remember, she is only one of many.
Yeah.
Right, we're so happy to have you all with us on the show every week in Scotland's #1 politics chat. Thank you for this extended show and for being with us every Wednesday. It's really great. This has been 578 people.
Wow.
Online simultaneously at the moment, which is more than actually attend SNP's annual conference.
Brilliant.
So this is the thing. My thought for the week is there is a lot of nonsense going on, but as the Buddhists say, this too shall pass. We will thank you for your support and thank you for all your comments and kindness shown to Mary.
Thanks for all your best wishes for my mum. I appreciate that.
We will see you again next week with all the news and views about what's going on in Scottish politics. Thank you very much for being with us. Good night from me.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, guys. Lovely to be on again. See you all soon.
Take care. Bye now.